dear influencers, our dear leaders, managers of your own life. How are you doing today? This is Lenka and Alex, and we are yet again here together in the Netherlands. And today we had a very extraordinary interview. Do you know how you always think that how you act, how you think, how you feel, how you eat, it's all what impacts your health. And obviously we talk about all kinds of pollutions and environmental impact. And today yet I discovered something very new that has a huge impact on my own health.
Yeah, this is Robert Janetzko, and he's a forward thinker, you know. He's one of these minds that live in the future, that open their minds and follow the latest technologies and trends to figure out where to add value to people's lives. And the reason that we got into the interview with Robert is that his personal story is so special. Years ago, he was this successful millionaire with a big business, driving 2 Porsches, and somehow he found that it wasn't the right way to go. He completely took a different turn. He had a different view on life. And in this interview, he's telling us about all the amazing things that he discovered and these new technologies that he's working on. Yeah, you're just gonna have to find out for yourself. This is the stuff you don't find in the news. You don't find it in the newspapers. You don't find it in the classroom. You need to find this information for yourself, by yourself. And yeah, similarly, it is in line with our initiatives, you know, how to work stress-free. That is some other example of something that every human being must know, but we don't learn it yet in school. That's why podcasts are so great. That's why the internet is such a blessing. Right now, we wish you a wonderful time with this interview with Robert Janetzko. Open your mind, take in all this new information, and who knows, this can be very big for your future in 5, 10, 20 years from now. Robert, welcome in the Influential Executive Podcast. So happy that you could join us.
Oh, thank you very much. I've been looking forward to this. I'm very honored to be a guest, and I hope to have a really good talk. I hope to provide lots of value to your listeners.
Thank you.
Good to hear that. And you are from Finland. And so one thing I learned is when you speak to people from Finland, you have to ask a lot of questions because there are people of few words. Is that right?
That is right, but the first part wasn't so right. Okay, let me explain. I'm born in Berlin.
See, Germany, I knew that.
But I'm not German either.
Polish.
I'm not exactly sure because the records are completely lost. Like in many cases with people from Central Europe after the Second World War. So my last name would have an indication of that area, Polish or Slavic. Let's say Slavic.
Yeah.
My mother, on the other hand, is 100% Finn, from a very small town in central Finland. So let's put it this way: I have lots of experience with different cultures, but I wouldn't call myself a typical anything. So
right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, because I remember that you once mentioned you're from Germany, but you live in Finland, and then I looked in your last name. I'm like, dude, I do really believe that you have something to do with Poland. So
yeah.
I'm finally happy that I can place it, and it gives you lots of insight into how people think. It gives you lots of insight in how people live, because those cultures, whether it's German or whether it's Polish and Central Europe, whether it's Finland, those cultures are completely different, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad we have this question to begin with, because I think nowadays let's say it's 2019. I mean, in a few weeks it's 2019, and lots of our thinking is dated, like this cultural thinking. For example, my partner, my girlfriend, she's born in Tanzania, her mom is Finnish, but her dad is half Tanzanian, half Greek. So what is her culture? You can't really pinpoint it. Then she grew up in Finland later on, and I think these typical cultural pointers, they don't apply anymore.
Yeah, so what you mean also is that the world is becoming smaller, is that right? That with the internet connecting everything, everybody, people, knowledge, that there's more something like a global civilian emerging.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a small girl, she's 4.5 years. I want to teach her that there's no differences in people from the value perspective. People have different upbringing, but even that is changing because of the internet, like you said. And it's so easy to travel for anyone to go to anywhere, just like that, and mix it up. So I think we're all human. That's our race.
I like that point of view. And we're all human with a personal story.
Yeah.
We're all here going through this life. It's one big adventure. We never know what's coming, even though we work hard to predict the future. It typically doesn't work out the way we we expect it will.
Almost never, no.
And
Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah, quite literally maybe. And what is so interesting about your story is that up to a certain point in your past, you were living the dream. You had a successful business, you were making the money, you had the clients, and according to all standards, you were extremely successful. How long ago was that?
So I started my first business, I was 18, 19. It was in the last millennium, 1999, something like that. And this lasted for almost a decade, this high standard living. Although I only worked, I did nothing else. And essentially I was living somebody else's dream. If I have to miss one thing, it would be the 2 Porsches I had. But but essentially 99% of my whole life was not really my life. So that was the problem.
Wow, what does that mean? I think to many people it is still not really clear. What does that mean to live someone else's life? How does that happen? And is it something that happens according to your point of view to few people? Or do you believe that it happens to more people? They are just sometimes not aware yet of that fact.
I think this happens to everybody. And the reason is because, as you know, as coaches, that when we are between the ages of 0 and 6 or 7, that's when our worldview begins to shape. And it's pretty much solid when we become 8 years old. And everything goes into our subconscious. So we're totally programmed. And in a science point of view, like I'm sure, we are in this brain state, or the brain waves are different. So everything we see, feel, hear from others, that becomes our life. And I think almost everybody of us on the planet, we are wrongly programmed because of Hollywood. Let's blame Hollywood. But the likes of that, you watch movies. There's a certain culture. There's a certain pop culture. There's the culture of your parents, and there's the culture of your nation, and so on. Mm-hmm. And these have very strong sets of values, and it's difficult to remain who you really are. And I think our main job from, let's say, 20 to 30, 40, between those ages, our main job is actually to unfuck ourselves and unravel. Just try to remember, wait a minute, who was I when I got here? So that's the joke. So after that, it's pretty much awesome,
I love how you put that. And
Yeah.
you mentioned like probably how we know. You know what's brilliant about this is that the more people we talk to, the more clear perspectives we get. So I really appreciated you brought yet again your perspective to something that many people somehow know. It's sometimes just one word or two words that completely change people's point of view and perspective, and they have suddenly that click. It's like, oh, that's what it means. So when I was young, someone programmed me, and I just like between 20 and 40, my job is to figure out who I am supposed to be somehow. Wow. So is that what happened to you as well?
Yes, I'm talking about myself here. Yes, and I think this happens to everybody.
So Robert, where was that point where you realized like, wait, that's not me?
That's a very good question. I think when people start telling their story, and this happened to me, or that happened to me, and I was abused, or whatever it is, and tragic things, I think that is just life kicking us in the nuts to wake us up. So the exact point, I mean, I could pinpoint a few points, but it's all around us all the time. So everything in your life, every day, your surroundings is actually telling you where to go, and your only job is to listen.
Right.
So if I understand correctly, as you go through life and you hit some rough patches, some conflicting situations, those situations are not the problem itself. They are more symptoms or red flags.
Yeah, red flags. Good word.
Showing you that there's a deeper underlying thing that it just isn't working properly.
Yeah.
So this is what I find so interesting about being a millionaire. That's like the ultimate goal for many people growing up.
Yeah.
And for those for who it isn't a goal, they're really against it, as if it's a bad thing, right? So what have you learned about this? You were there, something changed, and now you started a new path. What is now your new goal?
My new goal, as I'm living it today, day by day, is to become good enough to be that influencer that I know I'm supposed to be. That is it, pretty much. So I don't think about the money itself. I know money will come by itself when I offer enough value to people. Mm-hmm. I've done it on the other way around, and I'm not saying I didn't offer value to people, but the priorities were wrong. And as a young man, when you start doing something, the number one motivation is money. Let's put it how it is, and it's not wrong by any means, but it's so much more fulfilling to actually live that core essence that you are actually meant to be, and then in that process make that money and then become the mega influencer that you're supposed to be, because we all know money has something to do with influencing in one way or another. Even Mother Teresa, not many people know this, but when she died, she had millions on her bank account. I'm not saying she was ciphering it away, but to be an influencer means that you're perfectly positioned to redirect resources and money.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, because you have people's attention, people listen to you, and they see that when they give their money to you, that more good things happen. Like the chain doesn't stop there. It's endless cause and effect. So I give you money and I know, hey, you're going to do something good with it. So that makes you 100 times better business partner than one where I know, hey, the money goes into the vacation house and an extra trip with the family.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm a huge fan of this thinking that, usually, the 20-80% law. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's so correct. You usually don't need that 100% what you think you need. That's not it. I mean, let's say your ultimate dream is to drive that Porsche or Ferrari.
Mhm.
I mean, I've driven both kinds of cars, and the Porsche I owned, as great as it is, it's just going from one place to another. You can't live inside of that vehicle, it's super great, but it doesn't fulfill you to 100%. But this is what you think first.
Yeah.
No.
For me, what was really interesting that you said is that you then realized that you are supposed to be that influencer. So I have 2 questions related to that, and that is, how does one figure out what he or she is supposed to be? And second one is, how would you explain what the word influencer, or in your perception, who is an influencer? What does influencer really do, or what does that mean to other people?
Okay, well, maybe I answered the latter question first. What is an influencer, or what it means to me. And this might sound a bit metaphysical or crazy, but to me this is very clear. If I say, it means simply that you're in alignment with all the aspects of yourself. Just bursting out of that shell of crap that is put on you, to harmonize that what you really are. And the connection point with all of us is somewhere in our childhood. Like, all of us, this is natural for human beings, all of us between the ages of 2 and 4 or 5, we have that one moment, I want to do this. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to be a teacher, or I want to build houses, or I want to be a rally car driver. These are all equally good things. So the challenge is to be in alignment with that. And how to find that is also built within us. So I don't think we are special in that sense, those who are called influencers, because everybody is born influencer, but most of us sadly don't realize this. So how to become an influencer is starting to listen to that voice and to separate from the other voices, like the voices of your parents. No matter how much they love you, they don't know, they can't see inside you, or what your school teacher told you, or what the television is telling you. These are just false beliefs. They are not necessarily your own. So you have to establish some sort of routine for yourself, where you go into some sort of silence. And I know you went to Bali recently to be in silence. This is not possible for everyone, but certainly 5, 10, 15 minutes every day is possible for anyone.
Right. So the answers are found inside of yourself.
Always inside.
The outside world.
Yes, always inside.
That's always interesting, because people, when we don't have television since 7 years, often people ask me, well, what's the reason? And besides the fact that we have way much more time than most people, because there is not that automatic response to, I come home and I switch on the TV, and thus the rest of the evening is at the TV. We do have lots of time. Moreover, I become more proactive than reactive. So I use proactively any media to research things I'm really interested in, rather than the media trying to influence me whether I want or not with all kinds of things. You are a coach. Is it something that you also do with your clients to really help them to get influenced in a positive way and have a look around what might potentially have a negative influence on their thinking and feeling?
Yes, always. But this depends very much on the willingness of the listener. So I never go out there and preach, put your television away, and don't read any newspapers. I mean, this is stupid because nobody would listen anyway. But if somebody wants to get that connection with him or herself, well, then I might say that, okay, then don't watch television for 3 hours every day. Instead of that, do something else. Write a notebook or sit silently and do these meditations or whatever. And for me, it's just normal practice, and I'm more than happy to tell these practices to anyone who asks. It's nothing mystical.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that in a moment we are going to get to talk about the thing. The thing.
The thing, Alex.
The thing you need to know in order to change the world. I see it here on the Health Indoor Ecosystems Academy, one of the latest initiatives. Beautiful post about the thing. If you want to change the world, if you want to be a true influencer, this is what you should know. Okay. Are you going to share the thing, or is that like not just to give away just like that?
Do you mean specifically my thing that I am doing to change the world, or is there some underlying thing that you should know? Which
I have here the Facebook page of the Health Indoor Ecosystems, and there's a story about to change the world.
You mean that one? Yes.
One thing with a capital T.
Oh yes, I left it open on purpose. That is very true. Okay, the one thing to change the world is to really realize this is the one thing that you can. That's it.
That you can.
You can. You can change the world.
Yeah.
And if I can do it and have started to do it, then you can do it, and any listener can do it. And it's maybe realizing your awesome potential and the fact that if today we suck, tomorrow we can be kings or queens of that one thing that we choose to become the best at. It's dedication.
And this tunes into one realization that Lenka and I had a couple of months ago, is that yes, everybody can be an influencer, and even more so, everybody is an influencer already, because every word we say, every thought we think, every look we give to other people, it makes the other person feel in a certain way.
Yes.
So there we go, we've influenced. Now the question is, how do we make our influence a positive influence on the other people? We don't all have to become the influencer with the 1 million likes. Sometimes it's enough to influence one person in one good conversation, transfer one new piece of knowledge. That person takes it along in the next meeting, that person in the next meeting, and that person speaks to a president, and it changes a whole country.
Yeah.
You never know where the ripple effect is going.
Exactly. But I would like to add, that was very greatly put about that everybody is an influencer. But I would add that if you want it or not, or if you know it or not, you're an influencer, and you don't have to necessarily put a distinction between good and bad influencing. Of course, you can choose it, but let's say I have a douchebag of a friend who insults me like all the time and belittles me. Well, he would influence me in a way where I can choose to be depressed about it, or I can choose to think about, hey, what is this guy doing in my circle of friends, right? Yeah. So if I think the latter and, show him the door, and then I make better choices. So he has influenced me in a positive way, even though he was just being a douchebag. Right. So this is how one of my favorite things to talk about and hear about is actually epigenetics. It's the new science where actually our environment dictates our actual health of our cells. But this is also something that pertains to our inner world, our mind, our spiritual world. And we can always make a choice. How do I react to this?
Mm-hmm.
So that is what dictates the quality of our life every day.
Yeah, I like it. And that's something that, like, you are very advanced. I think many people still get influenced and they don't even know about it. And then they realized, hey, those people influence me. And only afterwards there is the step of, well, it's not about the information as much as about what do I do with that information, right? Do I let it influence me in a negative way, or do I look at it from the observer point of view, observe the information, and then take only the positive out of it? So I really like how you put it. It was a great example indeed.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing up epigenetics. This is again one of these great new fields of science, of research, and yeah, I don't have a television, so I cannot really judge, but my guess is that they don't talk about it on the news every day.
I think not.
Even though it's huge, because there are some lessons in there that as soon as I got to understand them, everything changed. It put me in the driver's seat of pretty much everything that's going on. You know much more about this than we do. So for our listeners, what are a couple of things that everyone must know about epigenetics?
Okay, thanks. I've been studying it a little bit, but I would say I'm the authority on it. Here's what I know and what's certainly factual. So in the 1950s, 60s, scientists Crick and Watson came up with this thesis that our genes are controlled from the inside. So pretty much, and this was called the central dogma in medicine, which is funny because dogma is Latin for belief or window, like how to view something. So for the most part of my life, like everybody in my generation, we have been thinking that if we have some predisposition in our genes, we're just fucked, you know. And you can, I don't know if you bleep it out in the show, but I want to tell it how it is. So this is when people get scared. Oh, I got a 34% chance of getting this cancer, or 67% chance of getting that disease.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually work like that. So then epigenetics came along very, very recently, just a few years ago, and it has been shown that actually the function of the individual cells, they react to outside stimulus. So they are not controlled from the inside. So it doesn't matter which disposition you have. It only matters in what sort of environment you put your cells into. And put very clearly, if you as a human being, as a person, live in a very unhealthy environment, like physically and unhealthy, like there's smoke there, it's dirty, it's dark, you're gonna get sick very, very likely, and you're gonna get a mental breakdown. But if you as a person put yourself in a very nice environment, which is very clean, and let's say the air is always crisp and always clean, there's a lot of nature around you, there's only nice people around you, you're going to live like 100 years old, 120 years old, no problem. And you're going to be happy, and you're going to be wealthy and fine. And this is what science shows us today. So epigenetics is the new science, which should be taught in school, but sadly still that central dogma piece of shit is taught everywhere. And that is one huge problem for society, for humanity. Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's really painful. And when you study more about epigenetics, and I've been listening a lot to what Bruce Lipton has to say on this topic.
Of course, no.
He's one of the world leading influencers in this field. It goes as far as understanding how your thoughts can influence your health. So negative thoughts make it more likely that you get ill. Positive thoughts make it more likely that you feel healthy.
Exactly. But before we move on, I would like to tie all of this together that we talked about, because you mentioned the Healthy Indoor Ecosystem Academy, which is the main thing that I am working on. And that first company I established many years ago, like 20 years ago, that was in the field of cleaner indoor air, okay? But it was mainly just a sales company. We sold good products. But then that tremendous something rose up in me that told myself, dude, you can do better than this. Come up with something new. Because my understanding grew year by year, up until the point where I am one of very few people in the world today who understands that actually the way we build our buildings and the way we live indoors, and we spend 90% indoors of our whole life, that is actually the point where we get sick, because so many toxic building materials are used in every building in all of the world all the time. And it's actually almost impossible to find a home which wouldn't have, let's say, at least 10 of the most usual carcinogens, which of course they can give you cancer. And the number one reason why we get sick, why we get cancer, for example, it's found in our own home. So there's an old Finnish saying which says many people have died in their homes, and this is actually more true than anyone would dare to guess. So the thing we are doing now within this Healthy Indoor Ecosystems, so I actually came up with a new invention which measures the indoor air and controls it like nothing ever before. So it's currently a startup. We're working behind the scene. It's been verified until now by 5 different scientists. It's actually working. And beginning of 2019, we're actually going into our first round. We're getting investors and getting that thing going. So it's very, very exciting.
That is very exciting. And just to understand the issue correctly, you're not just talking about asbestos here, are you?
Asbestos is a very, very, very small, problem that became famous because it's outrageously terrible. But there are so many building materials that are just really bad, and commonly used substances that are really, really bad for your health. There are around 1,500 different types of building materials that are put literally in every house or building. And I'm talking about a global issue.
And Robert, have you spotted any differences, for example, in different countries? Like, can you, maybe generalize in Europe, the issue is more present than in Asia?
Sadly, no. Largely we build, well, of course there are differences in how we build, but many things are the same. For example, the use of concrete is quite largely, we use it everywhere. And concrete is a substance that is, well, I wouldn't put it in anywhere near my body, or, it's actually can be quite dangerous. And these dangerous substances, they don't evaporate in a few months. It could take decades. And we're living in essentially gas chambers. So this is one of these invisible problems. And I know I'm pretty early, But if you think about food and water, let's say 5 years ago, nobody talked about it. But now everybody is raving about it. Yeah, it has to be gluten-free. It has to be fresh. And I'm on a vegetable diet. And this is very, very good. But the same is going to happen in actual buildings and actual homes that we live in. So that's the next revolution. I'm giving you a tip here. That's the next. I literally can't tell you a large enough number. It's the next trillion dollar business, if you will, to change the way we build and live inside.
Yeah, everybody needs a home, and it will always be like that.
This will be always the way, yes.
And it just makes me think, there must have been somewhere a point where we started to use these materials, right? Because thousands of years ago, we were not using these materials. So I don't know, maybe you cannot generalize, but I'm going to ask that question anyway. Can you say that in general, this trend has been present here for the past 100 years when we started to use these dangerous materials?
Well, this ties in. It's a very good question. This ties in with the material revolution, when we came up with a lot of chemical materials that didn't exist before, let's say, the 1960s, especially from the 1970s, 1980s. It went off the chart. We can't literally even keep up with the number of different kind of chemicals produced to have some sort of, it does something that looks good on paper. Let's say this material doesn't burn at all, but then very little time is spent in the health effects, because there are literally very little big brothering about this. So there are not many laws that keeps it in check. So building materials can be quite hazardous, to be quite frank.
And I can imagine, in those times, the long-term health, it was less of a priority. So the Western world was more focused on short-term survival and efficiency and rebuilding. It's a little bit like us in our 20s.
Yeah.
where money was the goal. And
yes.
Now that we've grown more mature and we see the bigger picture, and also science has advanced, so we have more knowledge. Now we know, hey, there's a smarter way of doing it. So,
exactly. Yeah.
What will the future be like? Will all homes be built with hemp?
Well, actually, hempcrete is one of the biggest things on the market at the moment. The other one would be straw elements, where you literally take straws and you just compress them with such high pressure that it completely insulates and isolates from outside heat or outside cold. And these are just fantastic things. But in the future, I think, those can very well be used. But I think the main thing is to start thinking differently and becoming leaders of the future. And this is the way how every one of us can be an influencer, becoming a leader of the future. And let me explain. What we do today leads humanity into the future, right? So whatever we are doing as individuals right now, as in terms of demanding certain things from producers, from the government, from other people, demanding better, more healthier, more sustainable. This is how you lead yourself and humanity into the future, becoming an influencer. Yeah.
Where are the front runners in this development? Hey, you said I'm very early because the global discussion on this matter has not fully started yet. What I typically find in these type of innovations is that there are already small communities who are innovating, trying things out. is there already a community somewhere who is living in hemp-built and straw-built homes, or like where is the front runner right now?
The absolute front runner, of course, I would love to say, hey, you're looking at it. But
yes.
Okay, in my small mind here, I'm thinking I'm the front runner or one of them. But of course, I know that we need to unite. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, or even tens of millions of people who are starting to think into this direction. And there are some communities which are, raving fans of, let's say, hempcrete or straw elements. Yay, because that's absolutely the best way to build a non-toxic house. Mm-hmm. Would you like to have a non-toxic house or a toxic one?
Easy decision, right?
Great sales guy.
Yeah. Well, that comes in the package, I'm afraid. Yeah. So technology is key, but also going back into the past and to really see what worked, and also going more deeply into well, I won't say spooky things, but quantum mechanical thinking, because everything has what is the word I'm looking for? Everything affects everything else in a very quantum way. So a pure linear thinking doesn't necessarily get us there. But it is my job to, in the future, to make this easily approachable. And right now we're gathering a marketing team that will influence people to think a certain way. First we have to wake people up. Okay, this is actually a problem. This is actually where you get sick in your own home, and it doesn't have anything to do with what you drink or what you eat. So unless you can stop breathing and still be fine, then I suggest you dive into this matter. And one of the things I'm doing right now is creating content every day on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn and Instagram, and growing the audience very slowly. And my skills as a coach are actually better placed in leading this organization in the future than actually taking coaching clients. So there has been a shift in my life towards the end of this year again, but now it somehow all comes together.
I love that. And what a beautiful mission.
And I just want to point out, Robert, what you just said is very important. And I just want to thank you for being so open, vulnerable, and saying, listen, guys, I had this realization and there is a shift, because I went from being, let's say, a coach where I would help clients. My coaching skills are going to be better used leading the organization. And many people listening to this wouldn't stop there. I want to zoom on that for a particular reason, because many people are afraid to make change. Namely, you lived with a certain vision, with a certain thing in your head, being very present, saying, hey, I'm this coach. And then you realize that's not exactly it. It's partially correct, but it's not yet it. And then you find the right place where this skill is going to be used. It's really beautiful. So, Robert, what are the key goals for 2019?
For me personally, it's to become the number one lead magnet concerning this issue in the United States, at least. Doing a lot of work on those platforms I just mentioned, and to produce a lot of value for people to get a hold on. There are several books that are planned for 2019. First, we're going to start off with some ebooks just to introduce all of this, what I'm talking about, and to give a scientific base for it. I'm very science-minded. I really love to really give the background of the actual facts in everything that I say, and at the same time make it easy to understand.
Love it.
Thanks. So those are the key points. So I'm not going to give it, a monetary goal, although I have some number in the back of my head, but that's not actually it. The point is to provide that value and get enough people into this thinking and really start shifting the focus from, oh, this house looks pretty, into, okay, what is it going to do to us, and is this the best possible environment for me and my children, and what is the future gonna look like? Is this sustainable? And that is the thinking I want to influence.
Yeah, I love it. It so much makes me think of, do I want to have a beautiful skin from beautiful tan from solarium, or do I want to have a healthy skin? It's very similar to this. You stop judging the external and you look at the long-term effects. So I'm sure that right now, all of our listeners, they just really want to learn more about that.
Good.
Including me, knowing that even though we live in a very old house, I still want to know more about it. So where can I find more information coming from your clever brain?
Well, thank you. I try to exercise my brain daily, so let's hope it becomes more clever. You can find me on Facebook under my name, which is Robert J. Janetzko. I'm the only one with that name there, as far as I know. You can find me on LinkedIn, again with the same name. And also YouTube, we have a YouTube channel which is called Your Indoor Ecosystem, so 3 separate words. And you can also find me on Instagram, where I'm under the handle of Health in Buildings. So Health in Buildings. So these are the platforms currently, and I hope to expand this network of social media. And as I gather the team around this idea, around this mission, the absolute goal is to produce hundreds of pieces of content, even per day. So yeah, this is a huge subject, and everybody should know about it.
Yeah, and it's only going to grow, obviously.
Obviously, yes. And also, of course, I'm thinking very far ahead. I know when Elon jumps in his rocket to fly to Mars, he's going to need a nice house, which is not toxic. So this all goes to building those places where we really stay safe and healthy. Doesn't matter where the house or home is.
That would be something that attracts attention, I'm sure.
Yeah. So Elon, give me a call. Yeah.
Brilliant. We'll pass on the message once we speak to him as well.
Cool.
Robert, thank you so much for sharing all your insights, your life story, your wisdom, and this beautiful project you're working on. Yeah, we are all for this development. So anything we can do to help you move forward, we are here because we see that this is one of the next stages in the world's development. So thank you for leading that.
Well, it was my absolute pleasure to be on this show. I can't believe that we talked as long as we did. One more thing before we stop, I would like to mention that I'm also more than happy to receive guests who have something to add to this healthy indoor ecosystem on my podcast. And I have a new one, which is called The Next 100 Years. And we're especially talking about the future, the next 100 years. What can we do as entrepreneurs, and also pertaining to the idea of living healthier inside and living more sustainable. So if any of your guests come up on that list, I would be more than happy to welcome them. on that show as well.
Wow, that's amazing and very generous. Thank you for that invitation. Where can people reach out to you when they say, yes, I am the perfect person to contribute to this amazing vision and mission?
So this podcast is currently being built and the logo's made and all that. So I think beginning next year, so in January 2019, it will be on all platforms and many times. So just remember those platforms, remember my name and Healthy Indoor Ecosystem, so you'll be a part of it if you just want.
Brilliant. Robert, thank you so much. I wish you lots of success, and I hope to speak to you very soon and have the hot updates about this beautiful mission.
Oh, thank you very much, and you guys have a great day, and we speak to you next time.
For sure. Thank you.
Bye.
So did this interview change your perspective on how you live? Did it raise your awareness? Are you now more aware of the impact of the house you live in? And what are the actions you are going to take right after this interview that will have a positive impact on you and your family's health?
Yeah, and frankly, I also didn't know this stuff.
No.
I thought our houses were perfectly in order, just make sure there's no asbestos in there and we're gonna be fine. It's just the more we as a human race advance, the more we understand about how life works and how the environment impacts us. So it makes me very grateful that somebody like Robert just steps up and dedicates his life to creating a solution and informing all of us. So it's been a great interview, and I personally, I'm already following Robert for a while and I will continue to do so. You heard in the interview all the social media channels that are available: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever the channel is that you're on. Make sure that you follow Robert, you stay informed, you inform yourself about this topic. Not for what it means this month, not even for this year, but for the years to come, because life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. In the show notes, we share all of these links, this information, where you can find Robert to make it as easy as possible for you. He is just one click away. And in the same way, earn more, work less is just one click away. How to work stress-free, that's what we show people how to do. Overloaded professionals, overloaded managers, entrepreneurs. We studied for 11 years how to get more done with less effort. To me personally, it's the most beautiful thing there is. So make sure, if you want to make things happen, you're on your own mission and you are out there to create the most beautiful life for yourself, earnmoreworkless.com. There's plenty of beautiful free materials on there to get you started. And for now, I would say I hope you had a wonderful interview. Let's all go out, inspire people, be a positive influence to others, and most importantly, have fun.